It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Wednesday, June 12th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Health is Happiness, Evangelism Scripts Word Study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? And it is a wonderful Wednesday. We have reached Hump Day, the middle of the week. Don't forget, tomorrow we have Q&A Thursday, but it is every single week, so get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can. And if you haven't yet, leave a like and comment to build our community. I'm just very happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive, so let's get up and support each other each and every day. Now, this week's Sunday message title is, Since I am with you, make sure you take action together as well. You must do that. And it is a very wonderful and awesome Wednesday. Very grateful and thankful for Eddie for another wonderful podcast he did for the Tuesday. He will be going to school, I believe, in August. I think it's going to be beginning of August. I forget when. And that is when we're going to reassess. And he's going to see if he's able to continue this podcast or not. I hope he continues. This is when we get better and better each and every time. So please pray for the situation. And if anyone else out there has like other things that they want to do, other scripts they want to, not scripts, sorry, other maybe some type of segment they want to do, please let me know, okay? So yes, it's already the middle of the week. And if you really think about it, if it's the 12th, what does that mean? It means we've already passed the third way mark of the month. Remember, there's only 30 days in June. If there's 30 days in June, it means that 10 days is a third of the month. We've passed that already. So I can't believe we're already getting into this. And soon, by next week, it's going to be like 2/3 of the month. It's going to be pretty crazy. But I can't believe we're already, a third of June is already done, right? You know, if we think about how fast time is going, like soon I'm going to be 50. You guys will be in your 30s. You guys will be deep into your careers. Some of you will be getting married, having children. Like there's going to be so much that passes by as our time is passing by right now too. So, man, I am excited and happy. Oh, and you guys know that next week, I think it's not even a week. It's going to be less than a week away. There's going to be about 7 American members coming to visit, and it's going to be really fun. It's going to be second gens. It's going to be their parents. It's going to be, there's going to be a lot of, it's going to be really cool. I'm going to enjoy it, have a good time. And the cool part about this one is they actually rented their own van, which means that I'm not going to be like the personal chauffeur. However, I don't mind doing that. But I'm going to be the person, I'm going to be hanging out with them, going to eat together, talk a lot, go on like sightseeing tours and trips and stuff like that too. So I'm excited about that, to see people from the West coming to visit Malaysia and get their genuine opinion of what they think about Malaysia. And I already know that they're going to love it. That's what I think for sure. Okay, so you know what? So on Monday, I did that crazy, I did some crazy stories. I thought to myself, did I go too far talking about those poop and fart stories, or like about the SS retreat and the guys like farting in a room and stuff? It's so weird, but I started getting calls after, like, dude, that is so true. And of course, these are guys calling me, and they're like going, oh, I'm exactly the same. I did the exact same thing. It was just hilarious. For me, it was hilarious. We would sit there texting and joking and laughing and talking about other experiences on top of that. Actually, and I haven't seen many comments. Like, there's not like a ton of comments on it, but I'm getting the calls. The calls are coming in. The guys are like, yeah, it's so true. And they're just like, one guy texted me right away, and he's like, they were in the car listening to the podcast and just howling while they're in traffic, laughing their heads off. I don't know. Maybe the girls, when they're listening to it, they're like going, ew, gross. But from the guys, they're telling me they were laughing so hard from that. So, they're just telling me they either have a similar experience or they said that they would join and try to be a part of it too, right? And then, it was funny. I don't know. It's so crazy how guys are so similar from around the world. I think that's crazy. I really do. I think that's really crazy that guys are kind of like, not kind of, we're just like that. We're just kids. We're always kids. It doesn't matter what age you are. We're always going to be the same in that type of area. That's just my general overall feeling. I know there's going to be some guys who are totally not into it, but I'm just going to say that in general, I think it's going to be like that in general. Yeah. For those of you guys who don't know also, don't forget, the live stream is going to start in a couple hours. Remember, it's in Asia, it's Wednesday morning. So Taiwan, Malaysia's 9 a.m. And then Korea's 10 a.m. And of course, in the US and Canada, it's Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And for those of you guys listening out there in Hawaii, it's going to be 3 p.m. So it's going to be quite hard because you're either in school or you're at work during that time too. But it's going to be really soon. So if you can, come out and join the live chat room. 10 a.m. Korea, 9 a.m. Like I said, 10 a.m. Korea, 9 a.m. Taiwan, Malaysia. And then, of course, if you're in America, by the time you listen to this podcast, most likely it's already passed because you're going to listen to this on Wednesday anyways, right? But you know what? Remember that one thing I told you my goal before, the reason why I switched the times like this, because I could have way more people inside the live stream, but the core audience is going to be the US and Canada. I'm not sure exactly what the best way is going to be, but oh, you know what? Actually, one cool thing that happened last week is we had one of these YouTube shorts came out. It's like it hit 3,000 views within the first 24 hours. I was super happy about that. So that made me really, really happy. But then when I check the overall, like when I look at the overall views of my channel, they're all going up, which is great. And it means that we're getting more and more genuine subscribers. And I did a check on my audience to see who were the top 5 countries watching The Rebel Pastor. And as I wanted, the US is number 1. US is number 1 with 35% of my audience coming from the US, which is exactly what I wanted. But the next 4 countries are even more interesting. And these are Christian countries, and they not necessarily have like huge audiences. Like they don't have a lot of members. Number 2 is the UK. That is awesome. UK is my number 2 country. Then India is number 3. Tell me that's surprising. India is number 3, Philippines is number 4, Canada is number 5. So my top 5 countries listening to the Rebel Pastor, it is so far off from MSD. Like, I mean, not far off, but they're so different, completely different. Because in MSD, Asian countries are taking like the top 3 or top 2. Top 2 is Asian countries, I believe, right? But here in the Rebel Pastor, it's working. It really is. It's great because these are countries that don't have many members, which means a lot of new people are watching my content. And it's just moving up quickly. So I'm really, really happy about this. Very thankful to everyone out there, especially for your prayers. Without your prayers, there's no way the Rebel Pastor can grow this big or not grow this quickly and this fast. So let's just pray and hope that it continues to grow even more. Like I said to you guys, I am excited when I looked at the analytics for the Rebel Pastor, and I know that soon it'll become more and more exponential. Exponential meaning as the numbers begin to grow, all the numbers are going to just start to grow higher and higher and faster, and there's more and more people going to be coming. I think in the last 4 weeks, my numbers are up. Subscribers, I have over 140 subscribers in the last 4 weeks, so that is great news also. Okay? Here's a comment from MSD. So here's an MSD comment, and this is from Ray. I think he's over there in Germany or Austria? Germany, I think, right? And he's a Singaporean, and him and his mom are very, they listen to this podcast a lot too. And he had a good comment, and the good comment here, and it's something that I noticed from last week, okay, just from last week's episodes, not this week or the weeks before that. So it's not something that's been steadily happening, but it's very interesting. But just last week, for some reason, the views are down last week for MSD. And they are. I just checked last week's views, like, oh, wow, it's true. There's like 3 videos that are under 200 views. Right? Which is, it's not normal. Most, in the normal weeks, even way before that, they've all been over 200 views. Like Monday to Friday, they all hit over 200. But for some reason last week, the views are down. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And Ray noticed that too. It's like, oh, it's so weird. Like, aren't the views going down? And for myself, being in YouTube for the last 4 years, I would say that there's always cycles. There's always cycles, and I think this is common and normal, right? There are cycles of ups and downs. If it stays the same for too long, it's not a good thing. If it's just like staying steady, it means you're not growing, right? Or there's something, you're not getting any information telling you need to do things differently or change certain things up. So like even last year during 2023, because of the situation in 2023, my views skyrocketed. It skyrocketed. And because it's way higher than it is now. It was like all the 300s, 500s, whatever it was, right? And I knew that once 2023 dies down, like all that news dies down, it's going to drop again to, something a little bit normal, hopefully being able to bring in more people who can listen to the podcast too. And yeah, it's overall after 2023, the numbers did go up, right? Because some people only came to MSD last year because there was certain types of information they wanted about 2023, right? And I would say that, yeah, there's going to be ups and downs constantly. I'm just thankful that we reached to 4 years. I'm thankful we reached to 1,000 episodes this year. And I think it's something that's very, very natural. Like even I was talking to, Chris Jansen, the guy who does PROVI over there in the US. He said he couldn't listen to the podcast either for an entire week because he ran out of data on his phone, right? So there's always things that are going to happen left and right. And I would say that even when you look at history itself, there's just a cycle of ebbs and flows. It goes up, it goes down. There's an influx of new people. Then some people are set on fire. Then there's a downtime for the overall level to go lower. And I would say, look at right now. Over the past probably year and a half, we have seen a very down period when it comes to evangelism. People aren't inspired to evangelize. And now we're kind of moving into an upswing where it's coming more about, okay, let's start to evangelize again kind of thing, right? So, I liked it, especially it was the perfect message last week too, where last week's Wednesday message was pretty clear for me. It was basically, regardless of how good or bad it gets, you got to do what you need to do. Then you get blessed. You're going to have the ups. You're going to have the downs. It's going to be part of life itself. So, yeah, I do see it. Last week was kind of like this, and I'm okay. Yeah, it's not a really big deal. Like for me, in the very beginning when I started YouTube, man, even if it was down 2 views or 5 views from the last one, I'd be like, what is going on? Oh, I can't believe this. Actually, this is what happened I think you'll see this when you go into my MSD. Go to episode 1. There's like 300 plus views. And it's because it's new. It's a novelty. Oh, there's a Providence podcast. And I would call all my friends to go listen to it, this, and you'd have like 300 plus viewers. And then what happens? Slowly, it keeps dropping lower and lower because it's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to have a podcast. Not everyone wants to listen to these types of things, right? And what's going to happen is we're just going to have this natural ebbs and flows in life. And it's going to be pretty normal. And I hope it's something that we will realize and recognize in our everyday lives too. Yeah, in the day there's an up and down. In the month there's an up and down. I would say right now is I know the weakest day of MSD. It's always Wednesday. Wednesday is always the weakest day. I'm not sure why, but Wednesday's the day where it's where I see the average of my Wednesday podcasts is lowest on Wednesday. That's my down, right? It's the middle of the week, right? So Mondays and Fridays are great, and it kind of dips down and then it goes back up, right? So you'd see that the middays are Tuesday, Thursday. Wednesday's my lowest average views, and then Mondays and Fridays are like my highest views, right? It's the beginning of the week or it's the end of the week. People can listen to it over the weekend, stuff like that too. So I would say, yeah, it's good to see. It's true. Yeah, last week, it's not the weeks before. It's just last week itself. And it's something that I look in and just check and see how everything's going. Some people, ran out of data, like Chris ran out of data. Some people are on holidays. Some people are going here and there. Lots of different things happen, right? So, as these things happen, just push forward, move forward, right? And I think that's when we are able to grow, because as we push forward, We're going to have new things happen. And then on top of it, we're able to reflect back and see, oh, or things pop up like, oh, I didn't know that's what happened, right? So, I even went to check on is YouTube analytics down or not? And one of the days it was down. So I was like, oh, maybe it's just the YouTube analytics, but I don't know. And honestly, it's not a huge thing for me. Not like a super huge thing for me anymore because I've been doing YouTube for so long. It's not really like I don't freak out like I did in the past. And now it's just chill. I think that's the most important thing. Either way. So, what do you guys think of the poll that Eddie put out? I think it's a great poll. I think that's an awesome poll from Eddie. Like we talked about, he's like, oh, what do you think about this? And I thought it was really cool. What did you guys write for the role, your role in the church? Like what was the actual words used? It was, what role do you see yourself playing in the church? What role do you see yourself playing in the church, right? And for myself, I put fire starter, because I know that's kind of the role I really play. I've done it almost all my life in Providence. I've been like a pioneer most of my life in Providence. If you think about it, I'm still actually pioneering and doing fire starting with internet ministry. I've been doing for 4 years, whether it's MSD Podcast or the Rebel Pastor, whatever it is. I've already been doing this. And I would say that even when I was head leading, I was far better as a pioneer than a head leader. Far better. And even when I was head leading, I got into some trouble, but it ended up working out. And you know what? This actually reminds me of something. Like this, before I get into that story, it reminds me of something, how each and every one of us are born with different characters and different personalities. We are. We all have this innate personality. And we're all different. And this is one of the things that I found. Have you guys ever read books or heard stories of super, uber successful CEOs and leaders in the world? Like the Steve Jobs, Elon Musks, the Bezos, Zuckerbergs, whatever. Like these uber perfectionists, right? And the reason I was listening to this, because I was listening to this podcast with Elon Musk. And Elon Musk, when he took over Twitter, remember he fired like 80% of his staff? And he was super demanding and super strong about it, where I know in Twitter they had like these 3 major hubs to keep like servers, 3 major servers. And he's like, shut one down. And they're like, it'll take 6 months. He's like, you got 6 weeks. And then over Christmas time, he would just, he would go to the server. And, he's the owner. He'd go into the server place and he wouldn't have anything to shut it down with. So he'd ask the security guard for a pocket knife and he'd just cut the cord himself, and then that server was down. Like, that's how demanding and strong he was. And, Steve Jobs, I'm sure you guys have heard his stories. He is crazy demanding, almost, belligerent, right? And we look at these absolutely uber successful people and we look up to them, or we look at them in a very positive light because of the contributions they have done. Now, what made me think more deeply is what if you met Steve Jobs or Elon Musk before they became successful? Would you still be like, look up to them? And you wouldn't. You would be like, oh my goodness, this guy's unbearable. This guy's got a problem. This guy's way too much. But it's interesting because only after they're uber successful, this is when people recognize him. And it made me think about innate character, where Sunstein talks about we need to make ourselves better, make ourselves do better, develop ourselves even more. And a lot of it I look at is sometimes we mistake the bad characters with the person's innate personality. Because when it comes to work, like when you see someone like Elon Musk, he is very different with his family than he is when he's at his job. And it's very interesting where you kind of look at where we have these different types of characters, like these innate, we're just born with this type of character. And it's perfect for certain roles in the world. And when you find that perfect role, then you will be successful and people respect you for that. And I think sometimes we are looking too much into getting rid of anything that people think is bad. And the answer is, I don't think we need to do that. We just need to find the right position and the right role for us. Like, look at Sunseam. When you look at Sunseam's character when he was training in the mountains, do you think he was someone that everyone looked at as this great son? Where he's going up to the mountains to pray when his parents are slaving in the fields just trying to make ends meet for that day, and he's just pursuing God by himself. What do you think the point of view of his family would have been? They must have thought he was crazy, right? Going into the mountains, not eating, fasting, his character was like that, but he was recognized after the success. And we look at him now like, wow, this is great. Oh, this is amazing. Oh, this is like this, and this. And I think that's the same thing we have to look at when it comes to people inside Providence too. Everyone's different. Some are strong and some are weak. Some are leaders, some are supporters, right? Some are proactive, some are reactive. But the people with stronger characters are the ones that are way more noticeable. Why? Because the ones that are quiet, they're not really making noise. They're talked about more. And I thought to myself, I was like, oh, that's so true. We do have a lot, because there's so many introverts in Providence. They're the ones that don't get in trouble. And because they don't get in trouble, or they don't speak out and do these things, they're not seen as these wild. They're like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with this person? This, and this, right? But when you kind of look at even the way the world works too, when will people finally get respected or acknowledged? And it's usually when you hit success, which makes sense, right? When you really think about it, the very thing that people don't like is kind of the very thing that makes people successful. Like, people don't change as a person, their innate personality. When you look at Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, before they were the same person, but no one liked them. But then they became successful, and then people liked them, which means what? Their personality didn't change. It was just that they had evidence of success, that it works. And then they begin to respect them more because they've done it. And it really makes me think about what God says when he says, you'll be treated according to what you've done, which makes sense. And I think this is why our actions, our successes are so big in front of God's eyes, because there's evidence that something has been done, right? Like, let me give an example of one of the hard parts when sometimes I'm not going to say this is like an excuse. I'm not going to say this is like something that's needed all the time. And that's what needs to be fixed, which is controlling of when you need to be strong, when you need to be soft, right? So even for me, when I was a head leader, let me tell you a very, very quick story. I got into trouble once, but nothing was recognized until way later, until after it was really successful. And what happened this one time is I became a head leader of New York. And I just came from Korea. And I saw, and I had this vision that, that basically was installed in us that, hey, guess what? I became a head leader 2015, which means 3 years later, Sunseam's coming out. And, at that time, of course, our head leader was that person. They're like, oh, yeah, you know what? We got to make sure that we are prepared and ready for when he comes out, because most of the time it's probably going to be through the internet. So in the Lord's Church, when I was there for 4.5 years, I think probably from about, I was there 4.5, 5 years. 4 of those years was just making the tech crazy. The broadcasting, the amount of money we put into the broadcasting system. And it was like, what made it even better is we had the Holy Spirit movements, which were, we need to broadcast to the entire country. So we were like getting really prepared for that. And when I came to America and I looked at the church, I was like, man, our system is terrible. It's just so basic, and this is not going to work. And especially in the foreign countries, we're going to need the broadcasting system even more. We're going to need it even more than churches in Korea. So I was pushing this new broadcast system, getting cameras for a couple $1,000s, getting more than one camera, getting a switch to get different angles, getting better internet service, getting the tech team to keep practicing the broadcast. And since in New York, we always had these satellite churches or these families that were in other regions in the East Coast and they had to watch our services, I really, really wanted to make sure that they had the best quality broadcast, because ultimately it would prepare us for the big broadcast with Sunstreams in 2018 for us to meet with Sunstream. And I brought this up. I was like, hey, we need a new camera. Not only do we need a new camera, we need new this, we need a switch, we need this. And it came down to, I was like, I think it's going to cost at least $5,000 to $7,000. And I was telling the church, I was telling the leaders, like, guys, we got to do this. We got to do this. And they're like, no. And I still understood. And I said, okay, no problem. If you say no, I'm not going to undermine you. I'm not going to steal money. So I found another way to do it, right? So I found another way to do it. And I'm going to tell you there's both good and bad from this story. So we had this large group of people that were watching our broadcast over the internet. And I brought it to those people and I said, hey guys, you guys are the one watching it. We want to give you the best service possible. We want to do it like a CTN broadcast. We want to make sure that we are the number one broadcasting church in America. You get your best view, the best experience of watching the service over the internet. We want to make it that good for you guys. Better mics, better this, better that, better this, right? And I started a fundraiser. And in 9 days, we collected like over $7,000. And with that, straight away, we bought all the equipment, we got everything done. And of course, I got into some major trouble, right? They're like, how can you didn't, and deservedly. I'm going to say, guys, deservedly. Like I should have, asked some other people for permission for these types of things. I should have done it. I got in trouble, okay? But for the next 3 years, we started preparing. And then 2018, Sunstein comes out, and then 6 months, that he's recovering this, and this. And then from 2019, Sunstein began to do these church visits through the internet. And what happened was these church visits were done only audio. There was no video at all. Our video was on, but Sunstein's video was off, okay? So like churches from Asia were getting these audio visits from Sunstein and this and that, and finally it came down to America getting their first one, and it was us. We got the first one. New York got it, right? And we were really excited, and Sunstein comes onto the broadcast, and what happened here was, was it the first one or this? I think it was the first one. We had this connection with Sunstein. And out of nowhere, the screen turns on and we see Sunstein's empty chair and we're like, what? And then Sunstein comes on the screen, which means during the time where everyone was getting an audio meeting with Sunstein, our church was the first church in the world to get the first video conference with Sunstein. And that year, America got 4 connections with Sunstein, and 3 of them were in New York. 3 of them were at our church because we were prepared and we were ready, right? It was something that we did from 3 years, setting the condition from 3 years on, right? So it was only after everything worked out, it's like, oh my gosh, we have 3 connections with Sunstein. We see his face, this, and this. Everyone's so happy. And I got my vindication where they're like, okay, you were right. Yeah, oh, thank you, for preparing everything for this. You were right, okay? I got my vindication, okay? And then I'll tell you where the big mistake came in. So eventually I thought we needed to upgrade even more. And honestly, to be honest, I don't think you didn't really need to. It was probably more of a luxury. And then I did another fundraiser and then I got in trouble. And that second time, I should have learned from the first one. I should have learned from it. And, I get the call from the upper management. They're like, hey, you can't do this. We told you the first time. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. And, I felt bad. And that's where we need to learn how to control. Because it might have worked the first time doesn't mean I can do it again, right? And that's where the big thing is can you control? It doesn't mean you just go off and do whatever you want. Like even for myself, that same situation, it was a good and then it went to bad again because I did the same thing and I never got what I was supposed to do. However, here's the thing. If I never pushed forward, if I never looked for another way to do it, and we didn't upgrade, what would happen? And this is what's going to happen all throughout history. All throughout history, there's going to be ebbs and flows. And we do need people who are strong. We can't say that we don't need strong people. No, there's a time for strong people. For a certain moment in time where they can be, what they do is actually going to help a certain situation that it could never have been helped before. And the hard part is when that actually happens, which requires what? It does require us to develop ourselves, to become spiritual, to know when it's right and know when it's wrong, right? It's kind of like, think about dreams. When Sunsteam talks about dreams, Sunsteam never says, oh, all your dreams are right. No, he never says it. All your inspirations are right. No, even for revelation receivers, whenever Sunsteam talks about, hey, you got a dream and your last dream was right, it doesn't mean your next dream is right. If anything, when you have a dream, whether it's for yourself or someone else, what does that mean? It means you got to check it. You got to really check it. And you got to check in reality. Hey, I had this dream. What do you think about this? Oh, I had this dream. Like, remember when I told you guys I had that dream of me chasing after a Korea, and then chasing after a Korean girl, and then eventually I find out I'm already married? Yeah, I had that dream, but I had to check it. I checked it. I went to the people. I said this. I said that. I checked it. And then I was like, now I know what it means. It's not I got this. This is 100% exactly what I thought it was. No, it's something where you got to check. And even when it comes to us developing ourselves, and even for myself too, because I'm a super crazy extrovert, I got to develop, I got to check, I got to be very reasonable with myself. And a lot of times when I'm really excited, I got to calm myself down first, think about it, pray about it, and then go to the next stage, right? And I think that's something that all of us, we have to understand. My point here is, we're going to develop ourselves, but it doesn't mean to get rid of your personality. That's completely different. You're going to have an innate character and personality that belongs to you, and it's going to be for you, and it's going to be something that is perfect for you to. It's going to be perfect for you, right? Perfect for you in the position that God wants you to be in for your role in the body of Christ. And it's something that I do think that it's hard to put people down for it, because sometimes at some point in history, it's going to be necessary. It's all a matter of, have we developed and made ourselves so that it's controlled, right? It's not wild and chaotic, but it's controlled. And that's going to be the thing that we have to learn as we begin to grow more and more, all right? Either way. So that's something that something I thought was kind of cool to think about, especially when I was actually going to talk about this on Monday, but I really like this poll from Eddie, and I hope that you guys can write down, what role do you see yourself in the church? What role? Excuse me. Excuse me. Thank God I didn't sneeze into the mic. Either way. All right. So write down in that poll what role do you see yourself in the church? See where it brings you to. Okay. So there it is, guys. Is there anything else before we get into today's evangelism scripts? Oh yeah, just letting you guys know that the Bible history, I put it off, especially for this week's message, when it comes to Bible scripts. And I'm going to go over a new Bible script when it comes to Gentiles. And this is something that's been requested, so I won't do it for tomorrow's Q&A. It'll be today. Maybe this will bring the numbers up for my Wednesdays. I don't know. Either way. So, I hope that everyone, you guys are going to have an amazing and awesome week. Very grateful and thankful, as always, for all the support and all the prayers. You guys are awesome, which means we will see you guys, not see you guys, what am I talking about? Before we get into the evangelism script for Gentiles, let's get into the first music break of the day.
Yeah, Providence represents Sierra Leone, West Africa. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come and I will leave in happily with our family, cause we realize wonderfully. The rapture's time has come and I will live in happily with our family, cause we realize wonderfully. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. This is the time of the rapture, our spirit is the rapture. We read our history together in this mission. We receive the new words, we receive the good words through the man of mission that receive the vision, that receive the wisdom and get all the passion. And get all the passion in this mission, cause our God is the God of life, not a God of death. The providence is to make sure we represent, to become a bride who listens to the word of right. Come on, now there is the word of life, there is the word of life. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come.
The rapture's time has come. If you're still waiting, ladies, it's better hear this one. Christ has come to the man on mission. Some sound a hit was what and take action. You living out stuck, you better wake up and take this mission and stop. Let's move, come on, let's set this fall, cause us this vision we must fulfill. Say
the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come.
Because of the rapture now we are in joy, so never for life to be destroyed. So now I can say, so now I can say, so now I can say, we live in joy, we live in joy. So now I can say, we live in joy. So now we are raptured.
The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come and I will live in happily with our family, cause we realize wonderfully. The rapture's time has come and I will live in happily with our family, cause we realize wonderfully. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come. The rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, the rapture's time has come, cause the bridegroom has come.
All right, so let's get into today's evangelism scripts, and this is something that a lot of people are asking about, and I think it's really important, especially at this time when we're starting to evangelize a lot more. Now, Karen had a great comment, and she said that a lot of times when she's evangelizing, she only has like 1 to 2 minutes with a newcomer, so doing this entire script for like 5 to 10 minutes, it seems impossible. Okay? And in my experience so far, when I find someone who is somewhat interested or ready, I can do an entire script. I'll sit down. Some people I've even talked to for an hour, right? So sometimes I will talk to someone for way longer than even 10 minutes, but I think it really depends if someone is ready or not. And it also depends on how we approach the conversation also. I would say in my dealings, yeah, most of the people are going to reject. Most of the people, I'm not going to get to the script. And most of the time is because I don't feel that they're someone who's really, someone who's ready. Okay? And some people just don't respond. But I would say maybe around 20 to 30% will have a response. And maybe 10 to 15% I can actually do a script. Like I'll do the whole script. 10 to 15%, which means that it generally comes down to how many people do you actually talk to. Because if I talk to 100 people, I'm doing the script for 10 to 15 people, which is, that you're basically going to be on campus all day, right? But for me, I'm just like, it really depends. About 10 to 15% are going to listen to the entire script in my experience, right? So I don't think it's impossible. I've done it many, many times. In a single day, I do more than one script to someone that I'm talking to. So I wouldn't say it's impossible. It might actually just be the approach, or it could be the method you're using to start talking to people. Okay. So let me get into today's script that I would use for a Gentile. Okay, and I would usually use this even for an assembly or like a bigger event. I use this type of script also even when I do large groups. All right. So, when it comes to Gentiles, most of the Gentiles, and it depends which country you're in, they're not going to be reading the Bible. They're not going to be that spiritual or anything along that line. So I need to find something that's a general interest that a lot of people like to talk about. And one of the biggest topics that people love is happiness, right? So I do have a script for happiness to kind of a script for a Gentile. And, I start off with a question like, what's the one thing what's one thing you think everyone wants in life? And of course, the answer is happiness, right? And of course, everyone's going to have many answers, but it boils down to, in the end, people just want to be happy. And the question comes is, what makes you happy? And I'll ask them questions like, when you go to a cafe, what do you order? Why do you order that? Well, because it makes you happy, right? When you go to a restaurant, you order what you want because you don't want someone else to order for you because it makes you happy. So, I would tell them, I go into like more character stuff, like I only order lattes or this. I've never ordered everything on the menu, but I'll still order a latte because that's what I like, right? So what I do is I go in, I have this one really, really good analogy that I use, and I like it because it really twists people's minds, okay? So I tell them the story. So let's just say we're on campus, and let's say that we're on whatever campus you're on. This person that you're talking to goes to this campus, right? So I'll use them as an example. I said, okay, there's two people. These two people go to the same campus. They go to the same school, same university, all right? Now, the first person always wanted to go to that school and they got in. The second person, this was their third choice. And they didn't get in the first one, they get in the second one, and they're here at this campus because that's their third choice, the only one they could get into. Now, question is, who is happier? Right? Who's going to be happier? And obviously, everyone says the first person. Why? Because they wanted it and they got in. Okay? And I'll tell them straight up, wrong. And they'll be like, what? That doesn't make any sense, right? And it really twists their mind. And they're like, is it B? I'm like, nope, it's not even B. And they'll be like, well, then what's the answer? And I said, okay, it just takes one question. If I go to the first person who wanted to go to this university, and I ask them, can you guarantee me 100% that you'll be happy going to this university? And the answer is no, they can't guarantee it. And if I go to the second person, and I ask him a similar question, can you guarantee me 100% you'll be unhappy on this campus? And the answer is no. Which means what? It means they're in the same position. They don't really know. And this is the one that kind of blows people's minds, and it makes them think more deeply like, oh, that's interesting. And I talk about, hey, think about this. How many times did you want something and you thought it'd make you happy? Think about high school. You wanted that girlfriend, and you're like, oh my gosh, if I was just with that girl, I'd be so happy. And then what happens is you break up with them 3 days later. right? What about your job? What do you want to do? Are you sure? What about your major? Are you sure? We don't actually really know. It's just what we want. It's completely different. So I give them I give them guidelines of what would be like real happiness or true happiness. And the first one I'd say is, I use Sunsteam's definition. Is number one is, if it's like real happiness, it's not temporary. It's not just for a moment. It's something that lasts until the end of your life. That's something that really, really makes you happy, right? That's real happiness. And the second guideline I'd tell them is like, my other second guideline is your happiness cannot be defined by something on the outside. It's not something you get. It's not something you buy. It's not something you achieved, because that's all temporary, right? Which means, then I bring them to this question is if happiness is something that lasts your whole life, and it's not something you obtain, it's not something you get or buy, whatever it is, which means that if you took everything away from yourself right now, all your clothes, your cars, your money, or this, and that, what are you left with? And the answer is, it's just you. It comes down just to you. Which means the big thing we're looking for is how can I really, really be happy? It's about you, right? And I would tell them, like, the most fundamental thing that matters is yourself, learning about yourself, knowing yourself. And of course, how do you learn about yourself? You know, there's a lot of times we didn't know we were like that. A lot of times we're shocked by ourselves. A lot of times we didn't know that we were like this or that. And this is one of the biggest reasons why people go into religion or spirituality, because they're looking for themselves. They're looking for, where did this all come from? And the one of the best examples, that people use even in former faith is, look at a phone. If you never knew what a phone was, right? You just get this for the first time. How would you know what it is? And the answer is, you need to ask the person that made it. Then you'll know what it really is and how it works. What's the purpose, right? But if you don't know and you don't ask, you just start using that phone for whatever you think. It could be a doorstop. It could be a weapon. It could be a toy. But you're not really using it for what it was meant to be used for. And that's kind of what happens in life. In life, what are you being used for, really? And you used yourself for what you think, but you don't even know. And yet we're still not fully in that. I haven't really achieved that real happiness I wanted. And this is why people go to some type of religion, is because they're searching for, who am I? And if God is really a creator of us, this is why people are asking God. People are learning about God to find out about themselves. So I would use this type of thing, right? And I would give people an option like, hey, just want to let you know that, the Bible study is not just about believing Jesus. So Jesus died for your... No. It's not about that. It's about life. It's about yourself. It's about learning who you are. And I'll tell you this right now. If you want, we only do 2 Bible studies. Just 2. It's about you, just yourself, and that's it. And if, you want, you can sign up here kind of thing, right? And it gives people like no commitment that, hey, we're doing 30 lessons in Bible study. So yeah, just do 2. Actually, if for you, just do 1. I'll do 1 with you. If you like it, we can continue. If you don't worry about it. But it's worth figuring out. It's worth understanding and knowing, right? So for me, I would use that for a Gentile, and it's usually for someone who's not really religious or someone who wasn't religious either before, because I would have a different script for someone who used to be religious but not anymore, because I can still use the Bible on those people, because they'll tell me all the things that they didn't agree with the Bible. I would get into those questions and stuff like that too, but that's not something that we need to all get into deeply right now. But that is what I would use. All right? You guys have any questions about this? If you do, let me know. These are some other scripts that you can use. Remember, this is not owned by me. Not owned at all. This is something that is anyone can use. All right? And maybe I'll use this for one of my Rebel Pastor podcasts too, and make it a little bit more deeper so that people can see exactly what it is. Either way. All right. So that is my evangelism script. I still have like probably another 6, 7 in my head, plus an extra 5 from this week's Sunday message. But this is something that I do think that we can just practice very, very general ones. These 2 I gave over the last 2 weeks. The other one was last Thursday during the Sermons in the Sky. I used my evangelism script for second generation Christians on Adam and Eve. Are they the first? And then this one here is going to be for Gentiles. There are other scripts that we can use too. If you have any questions, go ahead, leave them for me in the comments below. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the end of today's podcast. Hope you guys super and awesome enjoyed it. If you have any questions or anything that you guys want to ask or anything else about evangelism, go ahead and leave in the comments below too. Especially since evangelism is starting to kick off everywhere. Send me your evangelism questions. I would love to hear questions about evangelism. I just talk about my experiences and what I've seen, what works and what doesn't work. And just let me know. Would love to answer it for tomorrow's Q&A Thursday. All right. There it is, guys. That is the end of today's Evangelism Scripts word study. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll continue with Bible history next week, unless you guys want Evangelism Scripts instead. And then we'll get into, before we get into Health is Happiness, let's get into the final music break of the day. Okay, so let's get into our final segment for this Wednesday podcast, which is Health is Happiness. Hope you guys are enjoying these very insightful segments on our health. Last week we did part 1 where Julius was talking about addiction, and we're going to talk, he's going to do part 2 today, all right? So these are replays, but very, very beneficial, and we need to keep listening to these things to get them in our heads too. Everyone, please welcome all the way over from Australia. This is Julius with Health is Happiness.
Hi everyone, Julius here, and welcome to the Health is Happiness segment. Here's where we discuss all the different ways we can improve health for a happy life, both physically and spiritually. This is episode 8, and today we're going to continue with part 2 on the topic of addiction. Now, I highly recommend listening to last week's episode in conjunction with this one to get a more holistic picture. As mentioned last time, a lot of the research I'm sharing with you today comes from Dr. Lemke's work as the chief psychiatrist for addiction at the Stanford School of Medicine. Before we get started, I'm going to reiterate the standard definition of addiction. So what is addiction? Addiction is the continued compulsive use of a drug or behavior despite harm to oneself and or others. Dr. Lemke mentioned that often the initial entry point into an addiction is a desire to escape pain, not an attempt to seek pleasure. Addiction is very often a way people use to medicate their pain and escape their suffering. But even for those who initially sought out the drug for pleasure, once they become addicted, by repeatedly using it, they ultimately continue their drug use to escape the pain of withdrawal or the negative consequences that came from using the drug in the first place. We all have a propensity for addiction, but some channel it into things that are more socially acceptable like work or success. Anyone can become addicted to any particular thing or behavior, not just drugs. Nonetheless, there are certain people who are more vulnerable to addiction. So what's the first example? Firstly, being impulsive makes one more vulnerable to addiction. By impulsive, I mean having difficulty with holding immediate action following a thought or desire. That being said, there are some instances where impulsivity is helpful, specifically in situations where immediate action is required and hesitating or thinking too much can cost you. Second type of people are those who temperamentally need a lot more friction than average in their life compared to others. In this modern world, so much struggle has been taken out of physical life to the point we don't even have to leave our home to have every single survival need met. Dr. Lemke noticed that a lot of the addicts she found were these type of people. They had a restlessness about them and they sought stimulation which they could not get from daily modern life. The third type of people are those who have experienced some kind of emotional or psychological trauma, particularly early in life, that had not yet been resolved. And last of all, those who have had a severe addiction in the past also are vulnerable to being addicted to other things in the future. To understand addiction, we need to understand this neurotransmitter called dopamine. I'm sure many people have already heard about it. Dopamine lies at the heart of all addictions. Highly addictive things like alcohol, video games, media, sugar, smartphones, etc., they all generate high levels of dopamine, with little effort involved to accessing them. There are also other important neurotransmitters apart from dopamine that also make us feel good. Such examples are serotonin, endorphins, and oxytocin. But dopamine is the most important when it comes to addiction. Dopamine is a currency, and it's the way that you track pleasure, track success, track whether or not you're doing well or doing poorly. Your experience of life, motivation, drive is relative to how much dopamine you have at any given moment. It's the primary determinant of how ready we are to push through things to get what we want. Interesting point to note is, we are always releasing dopamine at a steady rate, and this you can call our dopamine baseline. When a cue is triggered for something rewarding to us, this creates a little dopamine pulse which tails off and drops below the baseline. This creates a kind of pain or craving that drives us to get that reward and relieve the discomfort by getting that dopamine back above baseline. Think of that feeling when you smelled a muffin, but then you're told you cannot eat it. The initial smell excites you, then you're left with that strong desire to eat that muffin. One thing to note is that more dopamine is released in anticipation of the reward than when you get the actual reward. If you've gone shopping and bought something that you thought you absolutely had to have, but once you had it, you're happy just for a moment, then lost interest in it, then you can understand what I mean. When your dopamine stays stuck below your baseline, then you'll experience a lack of motivation. Studies were done on mice who had their dopamine levels depleted. They were not motivated enough to eat food that was placed right in front of them, even if they were really hungry. Just for reference, here's a list of activities along with how much dopamine they generate. Eating chocolate will increase dopamine 150% above baseline. Exercise will be different depending on how much you enjoy that exercise. If you really enjoy it, This will increase dopamine 200% above baseline gradually. Nicotine, when smoked, increases dopamine 250% above baseline. Cocaine increases dopamine 250% above baseline. Amphetamines increase dopamine 1000% above baseline. Drugs and behaviors that release high levels of dopamine all at once make it harder to sustain dopamine releases over time when continuously repeated. It causes dysfunction in the pleasure-pain balance in the brain, which I'm about to explain. Dr. Lemke said, for her, one of the biggest findings in neuroscience in the last 75 years was the discovery that pain and pleasure are co-located in the same parts of the brain. The brain works very hard to keep this pleasure-pain balance in homeostasis, never wanting it to stay too long on one side. When we jump on the pleasure side of the seesaw, the brain hires gremlins to jump on the pain side to try and balance things out. If we just wait long enough, the gremlins will jump off the pain side and will naturally go back to baseline. But what naturally happens is once the seesaw tilts towards pain, we seek out more stimulation to try and get back that pleasure. But the more we keep doing it, the more gremlins jump on the pain side. Essentially, what ends up happening is your baseline dopamine keeps getting higher and higher. Thus, you gain less and less pleasure from whatever behavior or drug you're repeatedly engaging in. The seesaw eventually gets strongly tilted towards the side of pain and stays stuck there. Therefore, the addict seeks out their source of addiction, not so much because they want to get high, but just to feel normal. In countries with access to the most amount of excess abundance and stimulation, we find the highest rates of suicide and depression, and this is increasingly common, especially among younger generations. Much of this apathy in life can be attributed to these societies reaching these limitations of physical pleasures. Now that we've discussed how the dopamine system works in the brain, we're going to discuss what's required to recover from addiction. Now, I'm not going to address the extreme cases of addiction like heavy drugs, which require specialized rehabilitation programs. For most people, to reset their dopamine systems, you need 30 days of zero interaction with the drug or behavior. Then you can regain control. The addict needs to take necessary measures to ensure they abstain from the drug or behavior for that duration. Now, days 1 to 10 will be the most uncomfortable, and one will feel a lot worse before they feel better. By the end of week 2, the sun will slowly start to come out. By week 3 and 4, one will feel much better than they did before they started the addiction. Addictions follow the cue craving response reward cycle. Therefore, finding, avoiding, or eliminating the triggers is essential to avoiding relapse. Conducting a daily journal is very helpful for the process of identifying all the triggers and the recurring patterns that lead an individual to their addiction. Examples of some of the things one would note down are the time and place, the surrounding environments, what kind of people were around, the emotions and thoughts, even the food eaten, and so forth. Triggers are highly likely to be associated with some kind of emotional or physical pain. A trigger could be many things. It could be feelings of loneliness, stress from high-pressure job, poor diet choices, seeing a particular image or hearing a particular sound. It could be social anxiety. It could be the lowness that comes from experiencing something very rewarding. It could be anything. Sometimes a relapse occurs when things are going really well for a person because there's a removal of the hypervigilant state. This is something Dr. Lemke noticed in many of her patients. For those who had very severe addictions, vigilance is required at all times, well after recovering from the addiction. It's also helpful to do a general dopamine fast from hyperstimulating activities to speed up the resetting of your baseline dopamine levels back to normal, and also to avoid any potential triggers. The common examples are social media, internet browsing, eating processed foods. Now, achieving and sustaining long-term freedom from addiction is not very easy, but one of the programs that has had the most success in doing this is the 12-step program. The program was designed in the 1930s, with most of the core principles being derived actually from Christianity. Some of the core tenets are spirituality, which involves accepting a higher power that can help restore you. Telling the truth about everything, not just about your addiction, is central to recovery. The act of righting past wrongs and asking for forgiveness is important. Helping others and letting go of self-centeredness. Now, the 12-step program is quite famous and there's a lot of material about it online, so please look it up if you're interested. Now, recovery requires a lot of discipline on the addict's part. Even if they go out to seek help from a patient, they have to do the work. So it's important to have a very clear vision of life one can have if they beat their addiction, and also a vision of the things that one has to lose by continuing on their path of addiction. And this will help them be motivated to make the effort required to beat the addiction. Dr. Lemke also said, going one day at a time is an important rule to live by. Now, apart from abstinence, the other method to help reset the dopamine system is pursuing pain. When you pursue intermittent bouts of pain, the gremlins on the pain side get startled and start jumping on the pleasure side of the seesaw. Here are some activities that allow you to do this. The first one is, of course, low to moderate intensity exercise. Doing exercise that you like is really good and increases dopamine 1 to 2 times gradually. It's good to have a mix of both cardio and strength training, but whatever you like is important. And it's also good to do it at least 5 times a week, ideally in the morning, but evening is also really good too. The second option is a cold plunge. You can do this with an ice bath or a very cold shower. How cold it's required to be depends on how adapted you are to the cold water. Ideally, you want it cold enough to make you shiver. Now, this can increase dopamine levels up to 250%, and this rise in dopamine is more gradual and lasts up to 3 hours post-exposure. Endorphins are also released, which is also another good feel hormone, and they decrease the feelings of pain. The only thing to keep in mind is to avoid having your head under cold water for very long. That can make you sick. It's also better to do this intermittently, say about 3 times in a week, in order to avoid building too much resistance to the cold. The third option is also doing a sauna. 80 degrees Celsius for 5 to 20 minutes, as long as you're safe, is really good. You can do this up to 2 to 5 times a week. Drinking water and staying hydrated while doing this is very important. Word of caution, if you feel lightheaded or dizzy in a sauna, get out. You don't want to damage your neurons by getting heat stroke. All the above activities are very good at increasing resilience to stress while lowering it in the long run. You'll noticeably feel really good and relaxed mentally after undertaking any of these activities. To sum it all up, addiction is the narrowing of things that bring you pleasure. Like the word says, do not become addicted to stimulation. This takes away the motivation and joy from the normal things in life, like our work, relationships, and most importantly, our faith. In this world, where so many things are designed for the sole purpose of stimulation, we need to place boundaries and controls to avoid becoming addicted. Anyone can be addicted to anything. So that's it for today's episode of Health is Happiness. If there is anything you found interesting in particular, would love to read your comments below. The next topic we'll be covering is on the gut and brain connection. I'm very much looking forward to this. Thank you all for tuning in and see you next time.
And thank you, Julius, for another wonderful episode of Health is Happiness. That was part 2 and the last part of addiction. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Please leave a comment for him. Even though it's a replay, these are always beneficial for us. Someone is struggling with something, and we need to be those that can help each other with these things too. And I hope that these segments of Health is Happiness can help you guys with that also. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the end of today's podcast. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. Yes, it's the Wednesday podcast. Enjoy your service tonight, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.